What's happening, guys? Welcome to Beyond the Fight. So some news came out. Dana White came out and said that Jon Jones would be fighting for the championship, and it would be against the winner of DC and Anthony Johnson. And I like that, and that was a little bit of a different tune. If you'll remember back when Jon Jones got pulled off of UFC 200, that was supposed to be the main event, him and Deep Sea, biggest fight of the year. And, man, one of the things Dana said, he said, look, I can't bet on this guy again. I can't put him on the top of a bill. He's burned me too many times, and it costs too much money to do it. And I'm actually glad that he ran that back, only because I don't know how you have a 205-pound championship with Jon Jones on the roster and Jon Jones not being part of it in a couple of ways. One, for the fans, how do you sell that this is the championship fight, but Jon Jones isn't in it? And then secondly, who in the hell do you put him with? You tell me that a number 9 guy has to fight Jon Jones? Look, the number 1 guy has a hard enough time staying safe and going through that experience. What are you going to put him with? I mean, if you're not putting him there with a champion, who has to go out there and fight that maniac? So I really like that got unwound for a couple of different reasons, of which I just stated. I really think it's the right call, and I think that's still going to give us the fight with DC and Jones. Anything could happen in that Rumble fight, but we have seen it once before. I think that DC but you could put Anthony in that. I'll watch any of those gorillas fight in any which way that you want, man. Those are 3 absolute studs, but I do think that there is still something to be said for unfinished business there with Jones and DC Part 2, and I think it's going to happen.
What is your love affair with Daniel Cormier? I've never. I mean, I know we love wrestlers, but man, this isn't the same Cormier of 3 years ago.
You think I carry DC?
Buddy, I've never. Every time I say anything like Rumble's going to beat DC, and I tell you exactly why, you're like, I'm the craziest person on the world. And then I went back and I've thought about it, and in one form or another, a lot of people get roughed up on this show. Me, the fighters, you, everybody usually gets roughed up on this show. Dana White doesn't get roughed up, not by you. Scott Coker doesn't get roughed up. Randy Couture doesn't get roughed up, and DC doesn't get roughed up. What is it? Is it because he made an Olympic team? Is it because I just don't understand it? Because if you're looking at it like a fan that you are, DC isn't the same fighter he was when he lost to Jones last time. He's not the same fighter he was when he beat Rumble. Rumble knocked him on his ass. He's older. He's got one hand in retirement. That's fine. And again, I am beating up DC, but just because I believe, and I'm a DC fan, but I do think his time is gone. I believe his body type doesn't hold up. He's worked. If you look at Matt Lindland. Matt Lindland was the toughest SOB in the world for several years. But age got to him, and that body type, that long, lanky body type, doesn't age well in fighting. That short, stocky wrestler body type does not age well in mixed martial arts or boxing. Didn't work out well with Tyson. So you saw the fight with Anderson last summer, and you can make all the excuses in the world, mentally what was going on, this, that, and the other, but you saw that fight. Rumble would have ran through him then. So what is it with you that you can't talk, you can't speak on Daniel? You think that he's pulled out of 2 fights in a row because he's hurt, because he's ruining his rounds in that gym that has pulled out of more fights ever. Now, if there's a gym of fellas that I don't want come knocking on my door, it's those guys, but the truth's the goddamn truth. What is it with you that you can't see the forest through the trees on this? You won't even, yeah, you'll say, oh yeah, I could see Rumble beating him. But you even say the younger fighter who is still improving. If you don't think Rumble's has improved the last 3 fights, you're crazy. He ran through Glover. You went out and worked out with Glover. You know what a killer he is.
Yeah, okay, well, you said 2 different things there. Let's start with the AJ part. Listen, if you think I'm discounting him even in the least, Even at the least, then you're hearing me wrong. He is the scariest guy in the UFC, period. Any weight class. There is no more of an intimidating opponent you could possibly draw than Anthony Johnson. So if I've said anything that makes it sound as though I'm discounting him, it's inaccurate or it's heard wrong by you. But to your larger point, I didn't know I carried DC. I didn't feel like I carried any of them, man. I try to call it straight down the middle. And yeah, guys do get roughed up on here. A lot of times we come at it from a negative perspective. That's true. But I mean, I'll throw dirt on Daniel as much as any of the rest of them. I just think that he really is the best guy in the world out there that isn't named Jon Jones. His record reflects that. And as far as it goes with him and AJ, I don't have to sit around and guess. These guys already fought. I have evidence. A lot of times we don't have evidence. We have nothing but speculation that goes into a fight. That is what drives our industry. That's what drives a show like this, quite frankly, is we come on and we speculate. In this one, I'm confronted with actual evidence, and I'd have to confront that with, you'd have to be confronted with it as well. And I'll remind you of this. Not only did DC beat him, and this doesn't mean DC beats him again. I know we influence a lot of bettors on this fight through this podcast. If I'm going to influence somebody that's going to go off of my opinion and I have certain evidence, I've got to bring it forward. My evidence is these guys fought before, and you can always say what a heavy hitter Anthony Johnson is, and it's true. And you can say, well, I think he's going to catch him. I would then counter that by telling you he has caught him. He caught him in the first one clean, sent Daniel Cormier head over tea kettle, full 360, Cormier popped back up to his feet and was able to finish that contest. That's the only case I'm making. These guys need to go fight, and we all need to watch it because we don't have that answer. But I do have some evidence that would lead me to believe that history's going to repeat itself and that Daniel's going to come out on top. I don't carry DC around here.
You carry him like he's Thero coming back from gymnastics.
You think I'm a DC mark?
You are a DC mark. I remember you did that.
I'm an AJ mark too.
You did that bit with DC over the text or something. He didn't call in on the show, and you on the podcast, and he didn't know you were joking. And then you kept going with it, and he got all twisted, and you were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, DC."
No, I absolutely not. F him if he doesn't know I'm trying. I'm sorry, DC. I never apologized.
Sorry, DC.
I stayed after DC.
DC, don't come get me.
Man, you're rewriting that. You're rewriting the history of that text exchange the way as you are the AJ DC part one. And I'm a mark for both of them, and I do not carry DC.
Well, the way
you were the first guy that's ever said that to me. Wait, you think I'm nice to DC?
The reason Rumble lost that fight is Rumble lost his gas. So Rumble's had, we talked about this with Woodley and Robbie. You said, hey, man, they worked out together, and Woodley knows he can. Woodley felt something there. He knows he can beat him. Well, the younger fighter who had DC in all the trouble in the world and simply ran out of gas has been training his ass off for 2 years to get that fight back. So much so that Rumble is the only guy that I know of that has turned down an interim championship fight because it wasn't the fight that he wanted to win. It wasn't real to him.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I don't really like where this is going because you're painting me in a corner here where I'm sitting here defending DC. I don't have a horse in this race. These guys are going to go out and fight. I'm coming to you from an analytical perspective as a fan. I'm just telling you my opinion, and I do have evidence on it. I don't like where this is going, where it sounds like I'm taking DC and I'm making this big case for as why. Look, these guys already fought. If you're arguing that in that fight Rumble was getting the best of him and ran out of steam, I don't know that I could argue that. That was also part of the evidence we were confronted with. And if you're arguing that he's gotten better and perhaps DC has not, I think that's speculative. You're welcome to your opinion, and I'm welcome to mine. It doesn't make you wrong, and I wouldn't argue with that you are, but I'm not sitting here coming in as Daniel Cormier's cheerleader. I'm just saying that, look, Dana White said that Jon Jones is going to fight the winner of it. I think he's probably going to be fighting Daniel Cormier, which is a great, huge match, but there's also something to be said for parity, which is where if AJ wins, AJ goes against Jones, that's a huge match, particularly if you add the steam he would be coming in off of, beating Daniel Cormier. I just think they're in a good position right now where you got three absolute monsters, three absolute studs that could go any which way. That was I'm not carrying DC.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
If Brittany divorces you and Daniel asks you to marry you, will you marry him?
Oh, God, stop. That was